how important a healthy offensive line is, Jeff. You've touched on it to start the show. I do agree. You saw San Francisco get punished for it, and you saw Cincinnati get punished for it. And if there's one thing you can't afford to happen ever, 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 is your investment, your franchise quarterback go down. And you know what? If the Lions have one thing going their way, it is that offensive line, Jeff.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And that's what I texted you last night, because that was the biggest difference for me in both championship games. It's the reason why Drew Brees, and love him to death, but he put out that video on Instagram last night. I think it was at halftime. It was right after Purdy went down, where he said, I still believe the 49ers can win this game. And the reason he made that case was for both that defensive line and that offensive line for the 49ers. He was wrong. But still, you look at the Eagles. That was the difference in the game. What they did to that 49ers pass rush is unbelievable. Now, they ran the ball a ton in the second half, especially after Purdy went down, but still dominated the game, neutralized Nick Bosa, and then you go on to the other championship game. That was the difference. Joe Burrow and his lack thereof of healthy offensive linemen being pressured every play. They couldn't run the ball. The Chiefs really couldn't either. They still had timely opportunity, and they made those opportunistic plays, but still was the biggest difference to me, dominating in the trenches. The Eagles have built this roster on that. With all the depth they have at both sides, I mean, Landon Dickerson, starting left guard, went down. In comes Andre Dillard, I believe, left tackle who they took in the first round. They have depth on both sides. And we look at this Lions offensive line, and the only two offensive lines I put in the conversation about a week ago were the Eagles and the 49ers. That's it. And the fact that you have one of the better offensive lines, you can dictate the game itself. Do you want to dominate, running the football? They can do that. Do you want to put the ball in the air? Well, they can pass protect. That's how beneficial it is having an offensive line like the Detroit Lions currently have. Penei Sewell, Taylor Decker, Jonah, Frank Ragnow, and maybe they take a guard this year or sign a guard. Who knows? But that's the biggest asset the Lions have. Having an offensive line like that was the difference, and seeing both of these teams in the NFC and AFC title game. In the AFC, it's quarterback play. We get that, the best two quarterbacks, but in the NFC alone, where the Lions are in, you look at their offensive lines and defensive lines. That's what the Lions are building. And the fact that Brad Holmes is constructing this roster like that gives me even more confidence moving forward. If these guys can develop, you're going to have one of the better offensive lines in the league, and on track right now to have one of the better defensive lines in the league with the young talent they have. They're going to be dangerous. And most of those guys are on rookie deals. Penei, Aiden, James Houston, Josh Pascal, whoever it is, you're collecting, and who knows who they take this year. They're building something up front.
We did this last Monday.
Yeah,
we had a little segment. What'd you learn about the NFL, AFC, and NFC divisional round, right? What could you take away where, hey, this is what the Lions do well, this is what the Lions don't do well? I think from the title games, clearly you can take away your pass rush has a really bright future. Your offensive line is here to stay. Amon-Ra St. Brown is an X-Factor type wide receiver. Jameson Williams, we'll see how he develops, but you're hopeful for him. You have so much going your way. Aiden Hutchinson. Now, what are you missing, though? What are you missing that Kansas City had last night? That the Eagles defense had?
Oh, yeah.
And that they've had all season long, even Cincinnati at times had last night? A secondary. A secondary that could make a play or two and get off the field on a critical third down. Mm-hmm. I know Mahomes didn't throw the interceptions, but some of those bounces just went his way, and that's okay. And what was, in my opinion, the same value as getting off the field on 3rd and 10, if you're Cincinnati, was the same one that Joe Burrow threw an interception downfield to T. Higgins. They were down at the 15-yard line. It was basically a punt.
Yeah.
So I don't just look at the interceptions. I look at how are you able to get off the field on 3rd down. And that's the biggest concern I have for the Detroit Lions right now. This secondary, Jeff, needs to improve.
Yeah.
It needs to improve yesterday. They've got the draft coming up. They have free agency. You have to address it. We talk about things you want to learn in title games. I like the direction the defensive line's going in. You brought it up. I love the direction of the offensive line. It's here to stay.
Yep.
St. Brown, Jameson Williams, a run game that should be effective no matter what. Jared Goff looking good, or Ben Johnson returning. But defensively, I have question marks at linebacker. And I know for a fact I suck completely at corner. So what do? I got to revamp it. I got to find myself a Trent McDuffie. I got to find a Gardner Johnson. I got to find a Bradbury, a Darius. I got to find these guys. Because if I don't, Jeff, Well, I'm not a complete team, and it's going to be tough for me to beat Philly next year.
And the Eagles did that. 2-3 seasons? They found Bradbury, they got Slate, and they got C.J. Gardner-Johnson. So it can be done. And with Brad, we haven't really seen him go out and make splash trades yet. He hasn't been as aggressive. Again, in free agency, he hasn't been aggressive, but that's coming, right? You're going to have a little more money this offseason. You got the draft
capital, too.
You got the draft capital. We'll see what he can do. You're expecting him to probably take a corner in the first round, whether it's at 6 or 18. That process is kind of forming in front of your eyes. So to your point, the secondary is important. That's the last step of this defense. But that pass rush, man, it covers up so much. I mean, not everybody can have a stacked roster as Philly, but even the Chiefs, I keep bringing them up because the pressure they were able to get, and I know Joe Burrow doesn't have any protection, it covers up for that secondary. They lost Snead. He went out. He was concussed early in the game. He's one of their better corners.
L'Jarius Snead goes down, but Trent McDuffie and those rookie corners just stepped the hell up.
And it's easier when Frank and Chris are in Joe's face every play.
Well, you know, they have that luxury also because their linebackers are so disciplined. So when they take two of their safeties completely out of the game and say, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, you're not beating us.
Right.
It's on those linebackers and that slot corner to take care of the tight end, to take care of Tyler Boyd before he got hurt. And you know what? For the most part, they did. And open field tackling was a big one. How do you not let Jamar Chase break the game open? Don't let him go for 20, 30 yards off of a bubble screen or something. And they didn't. Joe Mixon, irrelevant last night. That Kansas City defense, Steve Spagnuolo, by the way. I grew up at an age where my first introduction to Steve Spagnuolo was he became the head coach, I believe, of the Rams or the Giants. I believe, the Los Angeles Rams. At the time, St. Louis.
Mm-hmm.
And he was mocked and joked. But I kept hearing, it was me as a kid listening, watching TV, how great he was as a defensive mind. And then he went to the Giants, and we all know what happened. And then he went to the Chiefs, and he's been there for so long now, and it's been excellent defense year and year and year and year after year after year, even if the talent isn't there. Coaching goes such a long way in this league, and I have nothing but good things to say about him. Good for him. I know Reed will get the credit, Mahomes, rightfully so, but you see coordinators around the league, they're just coordinators, right? They're excellent. They're not head coaches, but they're just damn good coordinators. He's one of them, man.
Yeah.
He's one of them.
And you look at another year, another 2 teams in the Super Bowl with what? Offensive coaches. That's where the league's going. And you talk about Steve or Lou for Cincinnati, good defensive coordinators under an elite offensive coach. That's what we've seen as of late. And Dan Campbell, to me, I have to believe in what Sean Payton thinks of the offensive version of Mike Vrabel. But seeing these 2 offensive coaches with their defensive staff in the Super Bowl, I think the Lions gives us hope that what they have currently, they're building something special with Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell. So I'm excited, man. After watching last night, I just want to get to the season already. Truthfully.
Oh, man, I am pumped for this offseason, I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
There's so much to talk about for the Lions, what they'll develop, how they'll develop, who they can acquire, who they can't, what's the limit, draft picks. You got 2 first-round picks, 2 second-round picks.
Yeah.
It's going to be nice.